All right, everybody. I'm here with my good friend Marcia up in, oh, you live in Montana, right?
Montana. Yep.
Montana. They're just making her jealous. I just got to go in the pool today. My pool is cold, but Reading being the second sunniest city in all of North America, I think after our session, I'm going to go for a walk down by the river. Anyways, just to make you a little more jealous.
Fun.
So we're
Yeah.
talking today a bit about the Healy and specifically the coaching module. Okay, so the coaching module is something, by the way, until the end of January so far you can get for a one-time fee. After that, it will be a subscription, and it shows up in the Blue Dot app. Okay, so we're going to talk today a bit about how I use it, some suggestions and some demonstrations on how I use it. I will say right off the bat that my very specific technical understanding of it and how I use it maybe isn't very refined, but the way I use it is very effective. And so a lot of stuff I'm going to be using, if you don't know how to muscle test or do energy healing work, you're still going to get a lot of benefit from this. If you do know how to muscle test and do some other modalities in addition to this, what we're going to show you is going to be super, super helpful. I've found it to be extraordinarily insightful and life-changing so far in my use of it. So first, I'm going to make sure, Marcia, that I have you in my Healy as a client. And all right, make sure this is on. So it's always about making sure that device is connected. And all right, do we have you in here still? I know we did it one time. JKL. No. Okay, so smile for me real quick. I'm going to person add you. All right, beautiful. And I'm going to pause some of this because not everyone needs to know exactly where you're born and all that, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, pause it here. Now since we're over distance, I just entered all her information in, took her picture, all that. Now I'm going to record the vibration for her. So since we're over distance, I'm doing that on her behalf with clear intention. I know Marcia pretty well, so this is pretty accurate for me. And the less you know someone, the more accurate information you probably need to put in their picture, all that. But Marcia and I have spent a bit of time together. And there we go. So I have her in here as a client, and I'm going to set this up so I can screen share from my phone. And so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the Heal Advisor app. So we call it the Blue Dot app. And you'll notice in the middle, there's a coaching analysis. Now, if you just have a Healy resonance and you open it up, you'll notice you don't have that coaching analysis there. That's it, because it's an additional module. So if you go to buy it, you go into the shop under app modules and you'll find it here. One thing to realize is you'll see perhaps both a personal and a coaching module. And this, I have the coaching module. The coaching module has everything for the personal module and a bunch of additional stuff. So don't buy both of them. Don't ask me how I know that you can buy both of them and then not need to have bought both of them and then have to get a refund. So, I'm going to open up the coaching analysis here. I'm going to go find Marcia Green. There we go. And so for a focus, what we're going to, do you want to work on the same focus you have before, Marcia? Did you muscle test that for yourself, or?
No.
Or do you want me to show you how I would choose something?
Yeah, how would you choose something?
Do that for you. So I'm going to stop stop this sharing, and I'm going to show you how personally I would do this. Okay. Let
Okay.
me, I'm going to make a new set of notes just for this session, so people can see what and how we're doing. Marsha coach demo. So if you're seeing this on YouTube or anywhere, I'll include the link to this document, which has, we're not going to reveal any of Marsha's personal info, but it will, people can look at the notes that we're about to do here to follow along. So I'm going to, there is something called an advanced inner healing muscle testing toolkit. And so one of the things when doing, you'll see this document right here, the advanced inner healing muscle testing toolkit. You can get this at muscletestingkit.com. So this is, for people watching, this is just like a 30-page document that one of my coaching clients created. Thank you. You know who you are. She likes to remain anonymous, but super useful. I don't know about you. I use it every day, right?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and so what it is, it's a muscle testing is just a yes or no response, and to whether or not something's energetically accurate. So if I want to figure out what the best phrase or focus for Marsha is, I can make a statement like this. First of all, I would make a statement: I'm muscle testing for Marsha. These are her results, and then check and see if that's energetically accurate. And there's a lot of different ways to muscle test. If you need to learn how to do muscle testing, go to teachmefrequency.com. I've got a lot of coursework there, like 80 videos on different subjects. And so I would say, okay, so I'm testing for Marsha. These are her results. By the way, I first say, I just ask God for wisdom and insight to be a blessing to you to manifest more unconditional love, peace, joy, wholeness, abundance in every area of your life. I always find it good to ask for help. And so I'm testing for Marsha. These are her results. So the way I muscle test is just using the muscles governing my swallowing and breathing. So I'm good. And then I'm going to say, as Marsha, the most helpful thing for my focus phrase for this coaching module is accurately described on, and then I go through, is it on the map of consciousness, yes or no? On the chart of emotions, yes or no? Is it listed in the positive pages and the negative pages, or on the word chart, which is about 4 additional pages? So if I can figure out what chart it's on, then I can figure out what row and column, and I can get down to the words, right? So interesting enough, negative page 2, B6, something about, so we'll just put these words down in a very neutral manner and then see what comes up. So the first word is irresponsible, actually, or irresponsibility is something on the is eliminated by something on the so we go to then to the map of consciousness. This word abdication down here is actually a very useful word. So abdication is a word that can, some of these words on this chart can go good or bad. Does that make sense? Abdication in its very basic forms means to give up your personal power or your rule or your authority, right? And that always looks bad, except if you are giving up your rule and your power to something benevolent. Does that make sense? And by abdicating to something on the, actually, we'll put this abdication word down, comes back over 10 times. Abdicate, 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 abdicate. To something on the positive. To being so one of the very important things energetically is to have a clear sense of value and identity that comes from God's unconditional love for us. and not from I'll be valuable when I do this, or when I accomplish this, or if we're trying to get in shape or physically healthy, we always look at then I'm valuable, right? If I'm not fit and healthy, then I'm not valuable. And one of the things that can disconnect us from actually achieving it is a kind of a certain sense of identity of like, oh, I'm not someone who follows through or does things correctly, or a very strong tendency to be incredibly harsh and nitpicking on what we're doing or not doing right. That makes sense. And I mean, people in general have that problem. So I don't even have to ask them. Yes, everybody does that, right? So this is and this setup phrase that we're talking about, Marsha, I know that you intellectually agree with it, right?
Right.
But we're not talking about intellectually agreeing with it when our subconscious and our nervous system runs our whole life. Who cares what you think, right? What you feel, right? A great example of this is, and I know you know this story, is my mom, who wanted to lose 30 pounds and was feeling very stuck on it when we did a bunch of work until we figured out that the last time she had lost 30 pounds was the year her mother and sister were killed by a drunk driver. And it was a year from H-double hockey sticks. Crazy stressful. And the stress of that year melted 30 pounds off her. So 60 years later, when she goes, I want to lose 30 pounds, her subconscious is like, no. Why? Because people have to die to create the environment to create the weight loss. And that's not a kind of good idea. So that's what we're talking about, right? So if we go back to the setup phrase is, so we'll say my irresponsibility is eliminated. So my lack of ability to follow through and do what I need to do is eliminated. How? By changing your value and your identity, not by disciplining yourself more. Does that make sense?
Right.
And in, one of the things to conquer health and fitness is the ability to look at the thing that's trash talking you, which is, oh, you're never going to get this. It is never going to work. You've tried blah, blah, blah. And so the weight or the lack of health mocking you and saying, I own you because I tell you what you're worth and you can't beat me. Right. And so it prevents us from being wholehearted and moving forward. You follow me? But if you can look at the scale and go, you don't get to determine what I'm worth because I am already, God tells me I am supremely valuable, proved it to me. Wait, come, go, whatever. You don't have the power to determine my value, right? Now I can rest and I can be very wholehearted. What does that mean? I'm going to go for it. But you failed 20 times. Yeah, so we learned every time. We're just going to do it again. Not like, oh my God, what if it doesn't work out again? And so the threat of future failure, I find this especially true for much less shame for someone who has always been overweight than for someone who's been overweight, gotten fit, gained it back. That's a much more painful process. Does that make sense? Because what really happens is we catastrophize or imagine what people are saying about us, right? And if you've always been overweight, they're like, oh, poor Susie, she must have some glandular issue. But if Susie got super fit, they're like, dang, look at her. And then she gains it all back. They're like, oh, I guess she's just lazy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I guess she's just not disciplined. That's why. If she would, Marsha, it's just calories in, calories out. You just need to discipline yourself, right?
But she just eats too much. She needs to go on a better diet.
Yeah, I want to punch people in the throat who say that, because it's like, clearly you've never worked with a wide range of people, because it's not that simple. I've had clients literally fast and not lose any weight.
Yep.
So don't give me the calories in, calories out. I'm going to swear, but you know what I'm talking about.
But it's true.
So we have to connect to that we're worth it. Connect to that it can be easy. Connect to that the physical fitness and health can be a beautiful gift instead of winning the personal development Olympics. Right? Because if you have to get there by winning the personal development Olympics, then you also have to stay there through perfect discipline. And that's a little stressful, right? So anyway, so we're going to go back to this. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to go to screen share, start. Perfect. And back into. All right. So I'm going to enter in my, now keep in mind the words I type in here, the device is not looking at the words I'm typing in. The words I type in are to help me focus my personal intention. Okay, so my irresponsibility is eliminated by abdicating 10 times. So it's like, it's over and over. Does that make sense? Over and over. Like, no. I let go of my opinion. I abdicate to God's opinion of me. Just over and over and over. To the fact that I'm already valuable. Okay. So now we're going to continue database selection, and this is an area where you'll see different people do different things.
Yeah.
I really, we can make a guess that maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the career. Sometimes I grab things from a lot of different sections, okay? And I don't really go into the next thing and go, okay, which one of these am I gonna grab? Honestly, what I do is, okay, hold on. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go down the list. I may pick maybe one, maybe three from each thing as I go down. And personally, what I do, I just muscle test it. So just choose one from career, three from emotional balance, just one from family, finances, four from goals, one from personal orientation, three from here, 7 from there, and 3 from there. Now that's a lot, but yeah. I'm going to sort them, okay? Because I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to sort them, and I'm going to run the device, and I'm going to then also choose which one to work on while we run the device. Does that make sense? So, so as we do this, we'll both hold an intention for what? For that things got easy when you decide you're worth it, right? All right, so here's one thing I do. I have very much of an amateur understanding of what these numbers mean.
Yeah.
I will tell you. So the first one is how kind of recent. The middle, and this is very hacked explanation. There is actually good, more detailed training that I've watched that I should probably rewatch in the Healy Academy on the coaching module. And I think Michael Mooney, or what Mooney is his name, he goes over this in more detail. So the middle one is kind of how aware someone is of it. The last one is the homeopathic dilution, okay? And so if the middle number is fairly high, it means, oh, you're pretty aware of it. What I like to do, so this one says, I can develop freely and independently in such a way that I can best bring my talents to fruition. I truly enjoy my work and I'm good at what I do. So what I want to do is I want to go up here up on the upper right hand corner and sort for potency with the up arrow. Okay. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for, personally, when I do energy healing work for people, I'm looking for the blind spot. Does that make sense? That's what I really want, so that we can dig deeper into that. And so when I sort that way, it tends to bring up the blind spot. So now you see the number goes to 3 and the homeopathic dilution is a D. Okay, so it's really a foundational thing. So it says, I'm motivated to do my best because I believe in the best in me, right? So that's what we need to connect to. So like, if I ask you, so Marsha, are you super disciplined? You're like, no, that'd be negative. Okay, so here's, I want to share with you something I'm personally going through and working through on myself at the moment. Okay, so I'm also trying to get fit. And there's a lot of things like I'm trying to perform at a pretty high level. Okay. And I realized even just recently that I had a pretty strong belief about myself that I'm actually not a very disciplined person. And that may surprise a lot of people. They're like, oh, Steve's super disciplined. I'm like, no, I don't. I never really saw that in myself because I have so much evidence of starting things and not finishing them and quitting. Oh, you do this crazy diet? Yeah, for 3 days. Oh, you're working out. You do these cool workouts. Yeah, did it 1 day. Right now, have I followed through before? Sure. But I have so many starts and stops in my life. Like, oh, it's like crazy, right? And so I took on the belief that I am not a disciplined person. So what do I need to do? Oh, so then if I'm not a disciplined person, what I need to get to my goals is I need to really radically change the environment that I operate in. What do I mean? Oh, I have to have the perfect program,
Right.
or I have to have a very high level of accountability, or I have to, like, does that make sense? I'm like, oh, well, since I'm not disciplined, I have to find the perfect blah, 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 because otherwise I can't do it. Why? Because I'm not actually disciplined. Right. So I take on that identity on myself and then I operate out of that identity. And then that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then I'm always like, I won't do it. Well, this is not the perfect workout. This is not the perfect thing. So like, I'm not going to do it. Or it's just like ridiculous bullshit, you know? So
or I have to be all gung ho and do it all at once, or don't do it at all.
Yeah, if it's not perfect, screw it. I'll never get there because I believe it'll be too difficult. And since I'm not disciplined, if it's difficult, I won't do it. So I have to figure out a way to make it easy and effective.
Yeah.
See the problem? And I really felt like God was talking to me about this. I'm like, okay, but that's not my original design.
Ah, right. Okay.
God did not actually fundamentally make me an undisciplined person.
Right.
Right. One thing I did last week is, you know, for me, it's like, I live 0.2 of a mile away from the Sacramento River Trail. There's gorgeous biking. The weather's perfect. It's like heaven for people who like to ride bike. I have a gorgeous bicycle. I bought it used in Greenville, South Carolina. Had I bought that bicycle new, it probably would have been a $7,000 bicycle. It is a freaking Italian work of art. Now I paid like $1,800 for it. Okay, got a smoking deal. But I had the flexibility, I had the place, but I'm not riding. Why? Because I'm like, well, I gotta wait till I'm in better shape. I gotta wait till this. I gotta wait till that. Maybe someday down the road, I'll go on this really cool long ride all the way up to the Shasta River Dam, which is like 18 miles away. I'm like, well, it'll take a while. Then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you know, maybe in life it's time to start doing hard things consistently. Now you've coached with me. I'm always about how can we make it easy? Which is good, because people shouldn't beat themselves up. If there's an easy solution, I could do that, right? Yeah, for me, I'm like, I need to like, what do I need to do hard? That makes sense. That's why am I getting in my 50-degree pool every day? Because it's hard, right? And I'm training my nervous system like, chill out. What you think is so dramatic is not. Calm down, right? So the other day, I'm like, I haven't ridden my bike hardly at all. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just simply go ride up to the dam today. It's not going to be a 3-hour bike ride from having gone 0 to 3-hour ride. All right. I'm like, thought about it. I'm like, I won't die. I can finish it. I may be in pain or I may suffer.
Right.
Tough. You're going to do it anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just to prove the point. Right. Guess what? I did it. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I felt great.
Sweet.
I'm like, holy crap. Why have I been avoiding doing the hard things? That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Because I didn't think I had the discipline or follow through or whatever, it's just all goofy stuff. Anyway, so that's kind of my personal journey on this, right? So if we go back, actually, we're going to go back on the screen here. All right, so I want to show you what came up here. So, so we're going to first work on this first one, okay? So I'm going to type in here, I'm motivated to do my best because I believe the best in me, okay? So, I am motivated to do my best because I believe best in me. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this program, okay, while we do some additional energy work for you, okay? And so when I hit vibrate, okay, so what I'm going to do, so the question is always like, okay, well, how long and how many times do you run the vibrational program? Okay, so in general, shorter and more frequently for more acute problems, longer, but not as frequently for more chronic issues, right? I stubbed my toe, ow, that's acute. Or my friend died today, acute. Oh, I felt like a loser my whole life, that'd be chronic, right? So we're going to do 5-minute interval. So what I do is I muscle test first the duration, and we're actually going to do it 5 minutes 4 times. Okay, so we'll probably interrupt it. I'm just going to let that run in the background. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to go back into this program here. And one thing I did is I first measured so it's very helpful to measure things because anything you measure, you can improve, right? And you need feedback on whether or not something is working. So I first measured this phrase here, and I measured it on the map of consciousness. And I'm not going to take a ton of time to do that. I have tons of training on the map of consciousness. The map of consciousness just quantifies different levels of consciousness. Anything above 250 is in power, anything below 250 is in force. And it's a way to measure your consciousness, your level of consciousness regarding that statement. And so right now it's kind of low, okay? So what we're gonna do, the first thing we're gonna do while we're running this in the background is also measure this first thing we're working on, right? I am motivated to do my best because I believe the best in me. And that's even lower, that's a 20, right? So that's kind of like the BS alarm goes off very loud in your subconscious. Oh, you believe the very best in you. You're like, liar. We have freaking extensive documentation that you don't do what you're supposed to do. That makes sense.
Yep.
And let me do this here real quick. Just switching something. Okay. All right. So if we measure something, we want to increase the level of consciousness for it, right? So I'm going to muscle test a couple different options on what would shift it. I am an emotion code and body code practitioner. For those of you watching it, Google it. Many of my clients are actually also emotion code and body code practitioners. So I, like Marsha, has a great practice and we work together. And so I'm going to test, is an emotion code or is it a trapped emotion or a heart wall? Trapped emotion is just kind of a blown fuse. A heart wall is kind of an energetic wall you build around your heart. Number two option, is it a spiritual root? A spiritual root just means I've taken my will and I've exercised it against God's kingdom. What does that mean? If I say I'm worthless and God says you're worth everything, that's an incorrect judgment and I need to repent. And repent doesn't mean to feel bad. It means to change your mind 180 degrees and elevate my level of thinking to agree with what God says, right? So the spiritual roots would be vow, judgment, offense, unforgiveness. Then is it, so it's a trapped emotion, heart wall, spiritual root, or body code issue. And the body code is just kind of a computer program that has the emotion code in it, but it could be huge number of different energetic imbalances, whether it's like a weird spiritual thing, or you got exposed to DDT, or you really need an adjustment, or something's off with your chakra, whatever. A lot of different things. So, so as we do this, I'm just muscle testing myself. So IHW is just inherited heart wall, and we need to track down what type it is. So we go to the emotion code chart of shame. So it's inherited. We need new. So it's an inherited emotional predisposition. So just inherited from the father's side of the family. You know, certain, if you know anything about this, psychic trauma can be wired into your DNA, and the scientists can prove that through experiments on mice and research they've done with children of concentration camp survivors, right? So I'm just gonna, with intention, reset that on myself on your behalf. And everyone all the time has a lot of shame. It's just kind of, it's the lowest energetic thing. So we just muscle tested, we released that yes. So that raises that a bit, and we go a judgment. So judgment, do we go myself, others, life, what? So we go, to figure this out, we're gonna go in the word chart, page 3, column C, 6, judge my reputation to be something on the, so we go on the map in red, hopeless. All right, so then we'll just have you, so we know, okay, this is what I have been believing. What do we need to change, right? So, you know, our words are powerful, and it's important to speak and believe the reality that we want into our lives. Does that make sense? So just say this with me. Say, I let go of any judgment.
Let go of any judgment.
That my reputation is fundamentally hopeless.
That my reputation is fundamentally hopeless.
And I make a new judgment.
And I make a new judgment.
That I am created in God's own image.
That I am created in God's own image.
Created to rule and reign in life.
Created to rule and reign in life.
And I can easily and effortlessly.
Can easily and effortlessly.
Return to this original design.
a return to this original design
and create whatever I want to in life.
and create whatever I want to in life.
Say, and I have extensive documentation
And I have extensive documentation
on having overcome many things in my life.
of overcoming many things in my life,
And I'm going to start celebrating them.
and I'm going to start celebrating them.
Right. So if I ask you, hey, Marcia, so have you overcome anything in your life? You're like, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Right. So those are the good things to write down, document, rehearse. That makes sense, especially when you're facing something, you know. When David was about to take on Goliath, King Saul said, I don't think you can do this because he's like a stone cold killer and you're like a kid. What did David say? David rehearsed his victories and he said, not a problem, King. Look, the actual Hebrew says this: I grabbed the lion by the beard and I punched him in the face till he died. What? Okay. So Saul was pretty impressed. He's like, okay, well, go for it. You know? So, but that's what we have to do often in our lives, rehearse. Like, okay, what have you accomplished? You've accomplished some stuff. Why don't you focus on that and not like that you like cheated on your diet or some stupid thing, you know? So we go 125 there, and another judgment. Judgment of others to be something negative. Page 2. Before. Other people are inconsiderate. Say I let go of any judgment.
Let go of any judgment
That other people are inconsiderate.
that other people are inconsiderate,
And I make a new judgment.
and I make a new judgment
That many people are wonderfully kind.
that many people are wonderfully kind.
And I'm going to look for that evidence.
And I'm going to look for that evidence
And find those people.
and find those people
And get all the help and support I need.
and get all the help and support that I need.
Right. Because if we have a couple experiences, people being judgy, then that becomes a subconscious belief. And then all the information comes in your conscious mind. Your conscious mind, to survive, has to make shortcuts. It compares the information coming in against the subconscious beliefs. Life is, I am, people are. If it doesn't match it, we'll ignore it and or pervert it to match it. So a couple bad experiences, now we start making radical assumptions on what people are saying or thinking, when a lot of it's BS, right?
Yeah.
And the degree to which your brain can make up some stuff is quite shocking. And if you think about this, if you think about it, anyone watching this, you know this is true because you have said or done things that other people have taken to mean something you did not mean at all. So you know other people's versions of reality is way off, but you never question your own.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, they thought that, they think of this about me. Oh, like they wrote it out in an affidavit. No, I saw their look. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? Well, hold on a second here. You're making radical assumptions about people and what they think about you based on the subtlest of innuendos. Oops. Right? That's a problem, you know.
Cool.
So that changes that to 310. So I will tell you this from my perspective. I mean, I work with a lot of people and a lot of wide range of things. Some of my clients I have the most respect for are actually some of the ones who maybe haven't made as much progress as they want, but they never give up. And they always refocus, and they've been through some hard stuff. Like, bam, man, you're a freaking rock star. The people, a lot of the other people is like, I don't it's not like they don't appreciate what they've accomplished, but I'm not as impressed. Does that make sense?
Right.
Now, sadly enough, the people I'm impressed by aren't impressed by themselves at all because they're too harsh on themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I know you do this to your own clients, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Judgment of others to be something on the life view. So, others to be something on the. So to say, I let go of any judgment.
Let go of any judgment.
That sometimes people withdraw from relationships.
That sometimes people withdraw from relationships.
And it's painful.
And it's painful.
And I make a new judgment.
And I make a new judgment.
That God's love for me is always there.
That God's love for me is always there.
And the better I let go of some relationships,
and the better I let go of some relationships,
the easier it is to receive better ones in return.
the easier it is to receive better ones in return.
And I let go of any judgment.
And I let go of any judgment.
That some people are evil.
That some people are evil.
And that it impacts my life.
And that it impacts my life.
I acknowledge some people have issues.
I acknowledge some people have issues.
But they have not the power or authority.
But they have not the power or the authority.
To tell me what I'm worth.
To tell me what I'm worth.
Or prevent me from creating what I want.
Or prevent me from creating what I want.
I allow the experience with them.
I allow the experience with them.
Only to make me better and stronger.
Only to make me better and stronger.
All right. So we go to that. All right. So that shifts that to 700, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back on to what we're doing. Okay. And I'm going to go back to the list in the same way it's sorted. And I'm going to go to the second one on the list, right? So it's 78% and 8D 100,000. So the awareness of this might be, you might be more aware that it's an issue and ready to deal with it, but it's still pretty significant, okay? And it says, I free myself from the entanglements in my personal history. It can be and has its place, but it doesn't concern me anymore. I live in divine connection and guidance and accept all that was, is, and will be. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, yeah, I've been through some stuff. Woohoo.
Yeah.
What's the hidden gift in it? Does that make sense? How can I make me better and stronger? How can I just really finally be healed from it and move forward, right? So we're going to write down, I free myself from the entanglements of my personal history. So that whole phrase, it can and has its place, but it doesn't concern me anymore. I live in divine. So it's like, oh, this happened to me. Oh, yeah, and I experienced that. Cool. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not we don't have compassion on ourselves or other people or anything like that. But we have to confront, oh, so it owns you. Or is what you went through making you better and stronger?
Right.
Right. It's like we all have that choice. I'm always fascinated by, you take children as they grow up. You know, I know some extraordinary people who have the most jacked up parents you can imagine. Like, oh my God. And some people who have some really genuinely good, loving parents who are like, just like, seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
You went victim to that childhood? You're like
Right.
still an amateur on what people, and it's, again, everyone has their own experience. We don't discount what they feel, but they clearly have the wrong perspective because they've gone victim to it instead of going, wow, I went through some stuff. How's it going to make me better and stronger?
Yeah.
It's always the question. And for people watching this, one of the fatal errors in life is to go through disappointment and pain and ask why over and over again, because the why will rewire you for depression and anxiety. And why always has an underlying accusation in it. And often that accusation is an accusation against God, and it will break your relationship with God. And really what you want is you want to ask a different question: what's the hidden gift in it? And to ask God for peace that's not connected to understanding. So you have the ability to go, someone go, well, why'd that happen? You're like, I have no idea, but I'm good. I don't understand, but I'm good. And see, unresolved disappointment occupies a place in your heart that faith is supposed to occupy. Asking why won't fix it. Getting supernatural peace will, and if you do that properly, then your area of great disappointment then becomes your area of great triumph. And that's life-changing. So, so I'm going to set this to vibrate again. And we're going to go back to this one here. All right, so again, we measure the level of consciousness. Start about 75. Yeah. Something in the body code issue here. No will to do something. So we got to figure out a no will to something who have no will to live. Does that make sense? It's different than a will to die. It's just kind of like, I can't anymore, right? So no will to do what? Something on the negative, page 2, see. No will to narrow-minded. So it's kind of like like this belief, like to get to where I want to go, you're going to have to do things like this, Marsha.
Right.
I just can't anymore. I'm just like, right. Oh, you cheated? Bam, you just gained a couple pounds. You see, to get to where you want to go, you're going to have to win the personal development Olympics. And you're like, Steve, I'm tired of training for the personal development Olympics. You understand? It's like, I'm done, right? So this is where, in one hand, you have to have a vision of the end result, and in your vision of it, have a feeling that it just all came together by God's grace and mercy, not, oh, I did everything perfectly for 10 years. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And so we're going to go to the underlying issue here, a inherited heart wall and B6 of shame, more shame. So for me, this type of shame from the father side comes up a lot. Different practitioners would come up with different things, and it doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong. One of the reasons for this, I think, is that energetically you find that it is the father's role to speak identity into his children.
Oh.
And so this is one reason why the father wound is so damaging. And you'll see this a lot in people's lives. And then you see why fatherless homes, why the statistics on fatherless homes is absolutely shocking, the impact it has. Why? Because the father isn't there to tell, hey, this is who you are. this is what you're worth, right? And the mother's role is different. Does that make sense? And our mom's important. Well, hello, yes. But the moms are typically the ones who are actually doing their job, and the dads are typically the ones who are dropping the ball. Why that is, who knows? But you can't simply go, well, we don't need the fathers.
No.
It doesn't work that way. Sorry. Good luck, right? And if you don't have a father, it's possible to heal from that. Don't get me wrong, right? But you have to be deliberate in it, you know. So I found that to be especially, many of my clients are women, and I found it especially true, typically energetically, very young girls, 3 to 7 years old. There's some weird thing where they seem to be pre-programmed that their job in life is to make the father happy. And if dad is having a bad day, they will catastrophize it and say, it's because I haven't done things right. And so there can be a lot of woundings, and you probably see that in your clients, a lot of woundings at these certain ages in relationships and experiences with father that then form the rest of their lives on like, oh, I have to do things perfectly. Why? Because if I didn't do things perfectly, my father wasn't pleased with me. And we have to have the father's acceptance. So when there's not a father who speaks unconditional love to you, then it's like, then your value is always connected back to how well I perform, right? So that's your mini sermon for the day, who's ever watching this. So we reset this no will to narrow-minded. Say, I'm grateful.
I'm grateful.
That it's God's mercy and grace.
That is God's mercy and grace.
That produces my beautiful life.
That produces my beautiful life.
And I'm grateful that it's God's mercy and grace.
And I'm grateful for God's mercy and grace.
That also gives me the ability.
That also gives me the ability.
To do whatever I need to do.
To do whatever I need to do.
Easily and effortlessly.
And effortlessly.
Right. It's like in the past, I lost 18 pounds once in 13 days. How? I asked for it as a gift from God. Now, I unfortunately need to lose that 18 pounds again. Been years, whatever. It is what it is. In my mind, I'm like, well, I can't do that again. Because I don't deserve it. Right? Oh, I thought God's mercy was new every morning. Apparently not, right? And so if you haven't watched this before me, I'll try and put a link in here of the difference between being forgiven and being declared innocent. And being declared innocent wipes the ink off the documentation of your wrongdoing. People have a concept of being forgiven, that they're just a stamp saying, okay, you screwed up, but we're going to pay it. This one time, though, I mean, don't come back here again with this issue again, because
right.
We have limited forgiveness for you. Right? It's like, I don't know how we create that in our minds, but that's pretty common. Forgiveness. We go. Unforgiveness towards something on 11, page 3. D. Emotion. Have you ever dealt with anxiety?
Yeah, I used to have it really bad.
Say this. Say, I let go of any and all unforgiveness.
I let go of any and all unforgiveness.
Towards the people in my past.
Towards the people in my past.
Who treated me harshly. Who treated me harshly and judged me.
Who treated me harshly and judged me.
For the anxiety I dealt with.
For the anxiety I dealt with.
And I forgive them and I let it go.
I forgive them and let it go.
And I'm grateful that everything I went through.
And I'm grateful that everything I went through. Only
made me better and stronger.
Only made me better and stronger.
Right. Do you still deal with that anxiety?
Just a little bit, but I pop right into releasing it right away. But
Yeah.
it sure made me understand it in other people.
And you overcame it.
Yeah.
Good job. Right.
Right.
Good job. And the thing people need to understand is that people don't treat you harshly and give themselves a lot of grace.
Right.
It's not how it works. Oh, something being nasty to you, man, their own internal self-talk. I promise you, brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. But they give you no grace, they give themselves less.
Yeah.
Is this making sense so far how we're doing this?
Yes.
So we go another judgment. Judgment others to be something on the. Others try to eliminate me. Say, let go of any judgment.
I let go of any judgment
That other people have tried to eliminate me.
That other people have tried to eliminate me.
In one way or the other.
In one way or another.
And I make a new judgment.
And I make a new judgment.
That no one has that power or authority.
That no one has that power or authority.
To separate me from God's love for me.
To separate me from God's love for me.
I'll allow anything I've experienced.
I'll allow anything I've experienced.
Only to make me better and stronger.
Only to make me better and stronger.
Unforgiveness. Two. Right. So one of the problems with the law of attraction is if people buy into it, then they buy into the fact that, or the belief that everything in your life is something you've created / attracted.
Mm.
And one of the problems with it is it tends to get people to focus on the wrong thing, like, why did this happen? Which will steer you into the ditch versus how can we get to where we want to go? You know, the Bible says, whatever a man sows, that's what he's going to reap. Cool. But it doesn't say everything you are reaping is something that you exclusively have sown.
Mm.
Sometimes stuff just happens. You know what I'm saying? The why is not important. It always has an accusation in it. What is the hidden gift in it is helpful. The how do we get to where we want to go is helpful. Right. And it then limits our life also to our ability to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Are you confessing enough? Are you visualizing enough? Are you
right?
Blah, 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 blah. Right. Oh, I'm going to get to where I want in life. And I'll be like, yeah, I created this by doing everything perfectly. Oh, you mean God, you just skipped the grace and mercy.
Right.
Good job. You're on your own. Have fun. That makes sense? Or can you get something you don't technically deserve? That makes sense. In working on my new business, I was spending some time thinking, okay, energetically, what do I come into agreement with? Right? What does faith look like? And there was the centurion who came to Jesus, and his servant was sick. He's like, my servant's sick, and Jesus is like, okay, I'll come and heal him. The centurion goes, no. He goes, I am a man of authority, and I am a man under authority. And if I say to this man, go, he goes. And if I say to this man, come, he comes. You only need to speak the word and my servant will be healed. Right. So he said, I'm in alignment with what you say. Right. So when I'm thinking about my business, I'm like, what could I believe and confess and imagine about this business I started? It was very interesting. The word that I came up with was unfair. What do you mean unfair? Could I have a business that looked unfair to people? Oh, it's not fair. You're gonna have the right time, had the right partnerships. You had this advantage. You just happened to meet this person. Like blah 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 blah. Does that make sense? Oh,
yeah.
Yes, it's unfair. You can't point to my perfect performance why I have this great business. You can only call it unfair, or if you have a high level of consciousness, you go, oh, you tapped into mercy and grace and abundance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's for me. I'm like, okay, well, what I tap into. So in your journey here, it's like, okay, what are you going to have to come into alignment with your faith and your belief and what you're saying about your physical health? That makes sense?
Yep.
You know, when we allow the current circumstance and environment and results and past history to impact what we're thinking and feeling and saying and doing, now you can only create more of the same. Or do we go, so we take the history, we go, and we go, you tell me what you think about me, my ability to create what I want, my physical body, all that. And I will only line myself up with that. If that makes sense.
Cool.
So, say, I let go of any and all unforgiveness.
I let go of any and all unforgiveness.
To the apparent harshness.
To the apparent harshness.
Of the law of attraction.
Of the law of attraction.
And I let it go.
And I let it go.
And I'm grateful that as God's daughter.
And I'm grateful that as God's daughter.
I live in his kingdom.
I live in his kingdom.
Full of mercy and grace.
Full of mercy and grace.
Which is his good pleasure.
Which is his good pleasure.
That makes sense?
Yep.
So we take that one then also to 700 and we go back and measure this one up to 125. So we're chipping away at it. That makes sense? Right. And so you could continue running the program consistently and continue seeing what comes up, what we can work through. That makes sense. So anyways, hope that's helpful for everybody. That's about an hour's worth today.
Yeah, awesome.
Was this helpful for you, Marcia?
Yeah, it was. Is there any way you can send me a PDF of the analysis?
Yes, I'll do that right now.
Then that would give me something else to follow through with too.
All the information here is pretty basic. You mind if we share it with anyone who watches the video as well?
Nope, go for it.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Everyone will appreciate that. Thank you for participating, for being vulnerable and wholehearted.
To show me to go through the database and then to switch it for, you know, the one that needs most work. That was, that's what I was missing.
That's what I've been finding very helpful, using the healing, combining with the emotion code and body code to target it. Does that make sense? Because it's always a trick of like, oh, we have this cool tool. Awesome. But what do you aim it at?
Right. What do you do with it?
Yes. What do you do with it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, I got a nice rifle. Awesome. Boom. Let's put the scope on it. Oh, look, I can like kill an antelope at like 1,000 yards now. Before, forget it. You still have the nut rifle.
Right.
You didn't have the ability to get it on target accurately. So,
yeah.
Anyways, bless you.
Thank you very much. And I'll be
welcome.
looking forward for the recording.
Awesome.